All right. Hi, everybody. This is the last podcast of 2020. I can't believe that. 2020 is almost over, everyone. We made it. We are live and healthy. And I hope you are as well. Our guest today is Dr. Allen. I think you're the first doctor we've had, so we're really
Yeah, but like I get enough from my friends. I mean, I'm a doctor. I have a doctorate, but it's in physical therapy. So I get enough grief where people say you're not a real doctor. And the joke is, well, yeah, like if somebody has a heart attack, call 911. But if I was a cardiothoracic surgeon and somebody had a heart attack, you should still also call 911.
right.
Yeah.
But we are happy that you are our doctor for the next 30 minutes.
All righty. I expect a copay or something. This is going to get good.
I'm going to copay later. I don't know.
Yeah, put it in the mail. We'll see if it gets here.
But this is Money Talks, Love Listens, where we talk about all things about relationships and finance with my co-host Jim. If you haven't figured this out, I am the relationship expert. I am not the finance expert. So do not ask me finance questions because I cannot help you. But you can ask my co-host Jim. Jim.
Hi. So, I mean, a little bit about me is that I'm a comprehensive financial planner where I specialize in the small to mid-sized business owners and the executives with risk management, wealth accumulation, and wealth disbursement. But my main focus is just to get to know the people, implement strategies that help them, they understand. So I'm a vice president of an organization called THG in the west suburbs of Chicago. But my main thing is, hey, I just want to give them a good experience. So that's my thing.
Perfect. And I always love to hear people's journeys in terms of our guests. So, Dr. Allen, I know you shared a little bit about what you do, but I would love to kind of hear more about the work that you do and why did you choose to do that work? I think it's interesting a lot of people kind of choose the careers that they have.
Yeah, I don't have a great answer for why I became a physical therapist. So I am your stereotypical doctor of physical therapy. I work in a small outpatient orthopedic facility. So it's more like you get hurt, you have a surgery. So most people are familiar with that, although there's many types of PT. I've never been hurt. I don't have any loved ones specifically that had any major illnesses or anything, but I was always good at school. I was always going to school. I was good at doing the classes. I have a great memory. And somewhere in college, just the concept of bones and muscles came up, and I just was drawn to it. I was so fascinated with it. And I got a little scared in college because it was all about biomechanics and bio this and motor learning. And I was just thinking, I don't really like cars. I don't want to learn cars. Of course, if you know anything about motor learning, it has nothing to do with cars. But eventually, I put my face in the system and I became a physical therapist. The closest thing to giving anybody a good explanation of why I like to do what I do is some people want to know how things work. I like knowing why they fail. And it's kind of a pessimistic outlook on life, but I'm that guy who watches a sports game and the receiver jumps up, comes down, his ankle goes one way, the knee goes the other way, and people are cringing. I rewind it and watch it over and over and over. For me, I love that stuff. I live for it, and I find that to be so interesting. That's kind of my story. So I went to school. I started learning about it. Eventually, I fell into the world of physical therapy. No pun intended. We don't want any balance-related accidents. Of course, you can't spell balance without Allen. There you go. And I started doing my thing. I graduated from the University of Maryland with a doctorate in physical therapy 2008. Worked there for a year and then lived in, raised in Maryland. I said, I got to get out of here. So I moved to New York City, where I currently live on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. The joke of like the West Side is always like you're so hard, where the Upper West Side of Manhattan is just all rich Jewish white people. So it's pretty great, which stereotypes are true for a reason. So it's kind of cool, but I love my job. I wake up every day, and the hardest thing about 2020 for me is like I'm one of those people who likes going to work. I really enjoy my patients and what I do, and it's one of those things for me where it's like I really hated this year. And one of my things is what was taken away from me is something I like to do. I like working. Call it selfish. Making people happy, making people feel better gives me such a good feeling. And that's why, I'm a funny guy. I like to help. I'm not quite as corny as Patch Adams, but that's my story. So here I am, and I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm trying to have fun doing it, and I'm going to keep doing it forever.
I love it. I love your energy. It's hilarious.
I've been told that a lot. People are like, do you take something? I'm like, no, I'm just a happy person. Although I've been told I have RBF, because when I'm not really on, I'm just kind of... And they're like, are you okay? I had a teacher in school one time. She's like, why do you have this FU look on your face? I was like, it's just how I look. I don't know. Start talking to me. I'm pretty happy.
The resting face version. Yeah, I have that. That's why I'm always smiling, because otherwise it looks like I'm mad.
And you have a great smile, Gwen, so keep doing it. Jim, not so much.
Thanks.
I kid.
Yeah. Yes.
Well, today's show is about stress and, a little bit about mental health, stress, and health. And I'm a big component of kind of the mind-body connection. I really enjoy reading about anything to do with that and studying that. And I really believe in it, that, if you wake up even in a bad mood, your day is just screwed. So I just have a rule where no matter what happens in the day, I try to smooth things out and not go to bed angry, because I don't want to, I don't want that to be my last thought and never wake up, and that's just horrible for the other person. But a lot of people are feeling the stress. Yeah, they're feeling the stress right now of relationships. I know I'm feeling it just because it's something that recently happened in my personal life. I'm not going to develop on live stream. But if you do follow me, you know what's happening right now.
Am I going to be an uncle on my first show with you guys?
I'm not pregnant.
Oh, all right. I don't know.
I am very dressed up right now. I didn't realize that. But, it has been very stressful, especially for people that have partners in the healthcare system. I have someone right now, a partner who is in the healthcare system, and he works in a lab. So it's just not fun. There's nothing fun about this scenario. I just want this to be over with. I'm done with COVID-19. I don't want it to be COVID-20. I don't see it anytime soon, so don't come at me. But what do you say is like a tip for people who are very stressed out right now in their relationships? To kind of like, how do they deal with that stress?
When it comes to what 2020 was, and I had this in my relationship, space is important. I live in New York City, where you basically sign up for a box and you pay way too much money for it, but it doesn't matter because you're never there. And I was living in a situation where it just didn't work. Nobody comes to New York City and says, wow, that is just going to be the nicest living situation I've ever had. Even if you have $20 million to burn, you're still trying to make the best of the situation. Right. Space is so important, whether it's giving your partner space, whether it's just whatever it is. It's just peace and quiet is so important. I mean, I'm not a meditator. I'm one of those people who tries to meditate and it turns into like my eyes are closed. I'm like, all right, I'm meditating. My mind is clear. My mind's clear. I'm not thinking about anything right now. I'm definitely meditating. I am killing meditating. I can't do that. But I know for me, what became so important, at least when the weather was nicer, was to just get outside. And, I'm a big podcast listener and I like music, and I would just go for a walk or go sit down and just kind of chill out. And I think that's so important to have stuff that you have to like who you're with. I mean, the plain and simple is if you don't enjoy spending time with your significant other, it's never going to work. And I've been there before. I mean, I've been there where you have the good things and then when there's too much of the bad, you go, okay, it's outweighing each other. For me, it's all about taking the time to appreciate time with somebody and having your own identity at the same time so you can do other stuff. I'm a physical therapist. We all knew I was going to get on this podcast and talk about exercise. I was going to talk about doing something. Now, I do some pretty high level stuff, but it's as simple as walking. We all have smartphones. It has a pedometer on there. I had a patient today where he said, "Oh, I walked so much yesterday." I said, "Oh, did you get your 10,000 steps?" He looked at me and laughed in my face. He was like, 10,000? Are you on drugs? And I live in New York City where all we do is walk.
Yeah.
getting out, movement. And, if you've ever listened to any Joe Rogan podcast, all he talks about is how the government never talks about the exercise and the health component of pandemic life.
Yeah.
So important. And it's just the little things in this world. I mean, enjoy food, enjoy living, but you got to take care of yourself too.
Yeah, definitely. That's a great tip. What would be your tips for relaxation? Like we talked, obviously, I know exercise is one, or, if you want to increase those endorphins and just, basically be on a happy drug when you're done. But I know you said you're not a big meditator. I know a lot of people are into meditation, but like
totally cool. I'm not anti. My mind is like constantly going. I can't do it.
Okay. But a lot of people, it's like whatever works for you, but what would be some other tips you could give to people that are looking to kind of just relax? Again, I'm in Florida, so Florida is supposed to be relaxing right now. But again, if you follow me, you will probably see that I'm yelling about the traffic because every single person decided to come to Florida for the month of December. So instead of taking 10 minutes to go anywhere, it takes me an hour to cross the street. So that it used to be relaxing just to go into the beach. It's not so relaxing when it takes you an hour to get there because of the traffic. So what would you kind of tell people right now? Because I feel everybody's kind of on edge. End of the year, we're almost done with the holiday season, and whatever you are celebrating and going into a long winter for most of us, and kind of the unknown. What would be some tips you could give to people?
We're all attached to our cell phones and technology, and anybody listening to this or watching this right now, they're doing it. I am just as guilty as the next person, okay? My go-to night is a sports game on the television on mute while I'm listening to a podcast or something, while I'm editing something on my computer. We all multitask. We're all doing it. Taking your time. And I don't care if you have to put a lock on your phone, put it in the other room, just get rid of everything and just sit in your own space. And as I say, I can't meditate. I'm really not good at it. But if you're going to sit down and just cook dinner, in New York here, people don't cook because it's so expensive to go to the store and get the food, and then you can just order it and it's waiting there for you. But it's kind of nice just to clear off the table and sit and cook and enjoy time and just have some... I'm kind of a cheese ball where if I'm going to have an Italian night, I'll throw on Mambo Italiano Spotify. That. It's nice. I have a friend who just started a candle business, and I won't plug it right now, but it's kind of nice just to light not a romantic candle, but just a smelly candle. I'm a guy. My room smells like a hamster. Okay. I'm not one of those women where you have just, incense and oils, but it's kind of nice to walk into. So stress relaxation, get back to the senses. Okay. So breaking this down, it is too much auditory and visual. So basically you kind of need to decrease that stimulation. And I think increasing the taste and the smell, which is so important. I'm not a nutritionist, but the expression eat with your eyes. Yeah. Look at the food that you're eating. If it doesn't look like it has a lot of pretty colors, it's probably not good for you. And I mean, seriously, if something is that brownish color, it means it's fried. It's not ooh. I mean, fried can be good too. But when you think of healthy foods, they're colorful. Simple as that. It's eating with your eyes and looking at something ooh, that looks pretty. That's very nice looking. And of course, it's always a lot better on your plate versus, slop and gruel. But for me, it's having your apartment, your house just smelling nice, having things cleaner. I mean, it sucks sometimes to go do that, but it is nice. I don't make my bed as much as I should, but it's nice when you come in, your bed's made for you, the apartment's nice. For me, that de-stresses me because I'm a list maker. I will make lists of stuff to do, and I'll sometimes put on there make a list to do this. And if you can cross something off the list, that's an awesome feeling. So I wouldn't say tactile sensation, but the other four, it's increasing some things and decreasing some things. And really, so it's kind of four answers. And it's just how much you're going to turn the knob on your eyes, on your ears, on your mouth, on your nose.
Right.
So that's one of my basic things. I mean, I already hit the exercise part. Of course, I have to drop it. It is the Legally Blonde line where Elle Woods is defending her sorority sister by saying she does exercise. Exercise makes endorphins. Endorphins make you happy. Happy people don't kill their husbands. And that's why she didn't do this. And there's some truth to that.
Well said.
I've used that so many times. It's not but you do bring up a good point about, stress and kind of ways to de-stress, especially right now. If you are living in, a tiny space, most of us don't have $20 million mansions. Maybe you do and you're watching this. More power to you if you are.
Oh, I thought you meant me. I was like, no. Like, you want to see the tour of my apartment? It would be just turning the computer circular. It'd be like, oh, okay.
But Jim is going to help us get to our $20 million mansion. So, money obviously can be, to kind of segue everything, it can be a source of stress. A lot of people have lost their jobs recently or over this past year. I know they just passed a stimulus for everyone that was, really waiting on that and needed that, which is amazing. But I guess, Jim, how are your clients, or have you seen people kind of handle the stress of, finances or just everyday finances right now? Is it more stressful time for your clients, or is it kind of the same?
Well, that's an interesting question. So yes, this day and age, people are more stressed out about their money because a lot of people are on furlough or unemployed. But it's interesting that the people that have a lot more money, more problems. I mean, there's a big tax liability. There are certain things people come after you. Money makes people do really weird things, and the more money you have, people come out of the woodwork. So I will say the stress level is predominantly they want to make sure their plans are in place, but they also want to make sure they can pay the bills. I will say nowadays with most of my clientele that they're the small to mid-sized business owners, they just want to thrive. They don't want to have to lay off their cousin or brother or some other family member. They want to make sure they can pay their salaries and whatnot. So we try to implement strategies to decrease the expenses of their what they use to spend to run the company, but also make sure their benefits, their investment plans, their incentive plans are in place properly. But this is an interesting time, because now that also people are on furlough, they want to make sure their plans are in place. So they do a lot of reading, they do a lot of speaking to other people, and it's easier for me when someone calls me to tell me what they want to do. And if it's right, sure, let's do it. If it's wrong, I'll educate them on that. So there's really two edges to that one. So,
and then Jim, do you have any questions for Alan?
I do. Alan, on your email or on your little bio.
My little bio.
I wanted to dig in a little bit. Tell us more. What did you mean on there about personal development and communication? Because those are two things actually I talk about in every meeting I have with clientele. We talk about personal development. We talk about their financial health, and we also talk about major communication. So I'd love to hear your take on that.
Yeah, I've been in New York here on my own little quest. I came to New York City as an introvert. You're going to be like, Alan, I don't believe you. But I consider myself somewhat introverted. I watched a movie when I first got here. It just coincidentally was with Jim Carrey. It was called Yes Man. That movie changed my life. It's kind of a silly movie, but you take somebody who's too cautious and then you just stop saying no to stuff. Just do it. And I started my own personal development journey where I used to be kind of timid and didn't like going places, or I'd get really nervous or anxious. And nowadays it was, I want to play softball. I joined a softball team. We played in Central Park every weekend. I started developing and learning, and then mo money, mo problems, mo friends, mo problems. Because then you have to start learning how to interact with different people. Your friends are great, right? And I know my friends' friends, but then you start meeting other people and their friends in different groups. And, of course, nothing like dating life in Manhattan. I will tell you, Vietnam was not as bad as what it's like to date in New York City. And I'm telling you, it's like the abundance of people here and everything that's always happening. I always joke and say, you can go online, you can meet people. It's like going to a restaurant where they have your favorite dish on the first page. People still flip through the menu. So trying to get involved and learn, and I kind of have my own insecurities. And I thought to myself, well, I want to be the best me I can be. And whether it came to learning how to be a better dater, how to be a better doctor, how to be a better, I own my own small business, how to be better at that. The funny thing is that it's all the same stuff. It's all about communication. And we're not even talking about relationships, which I am like the best dating advice, boyfriend, girlfriend relationship. I honestly am perfect as long as I'm not a part of the equation, because then emotions start to play in. And I mean, I'll admit I'm not perfect all day, every day, but I'm the guy you want to call when you have a question because I can think of things outside the box. So when it comes to being on my own quest and development, I just find it so interesting how business, personal life are so intertwined with how you treat people, how you come off. You know, Gwen was talking about, people being on edge during this year. You never know what somebody's thinking. You do not know what their day is like. We've all woken up and had a bad day. And we've all woken up and it's just been a regular Tuesday. But then you go out into the street and you see somebody just melting, just crying, and you don't know what their life is like. And I'm a big believer. And so I learned this recently from a teacher is, the golden rule is treat people how you want to be treated. Very common knowledge. They've modified that. That is incorrect these days because not everybody wants to be treated the way you want to be treated. You have to treat people how they want to be treated. Well, I'm not a mind reader. I don't know how that's supposed to be, but you have to take personal cues to it. And I'm on my own journey. I still put my foot in my mouth all the time. I host my own podcast where that's kind of what we do. We tell these stories of like, oh, you're never going to guess what I did the other day. And it's just another one of those, you thought you were being funny, you thought you're doing the right thing, and that person didn't take it that way. And then you have to backtrack and do it. So I'm on this ever-growing quest. And all right, so I'm 37. I will just say that when I was 25, I knew everything. I made no mistakes. I knew, finance, relationships, sports, everything. I was perfect. And then I turned 30 and it was like, oh, you dummy. You had no idea what you were doing. But now I really know what to do. So I kept living my life and I kept doing what I had to do. And then I turned 35 and realized, oh, geez, I was dumber at 30 than I was at 25 because then I really thought and like, what's the song where they say, oh, God, I'm blanking on it. It's some cheesy song where they go, life is a lesson. You learn it when you're through. I think it's a Limp Bizkit song, actually, or maybe that quote is taken. There's so much truth to that is you can sit there and, wisdom is earned. And I had a lady I was working with a couple years ago, one of the wisest people I've ever worked with. Everything she said, I wanted to write down. She was a former divorce attorney, and she had all this life experience. And every time she talked, I was like, wow, this lady, I turned to her, I said, and Mrs. Smith will call her. I said, you are one of the wisest people I've ever met. She goes, with all this gray hair comes wisdom. And there's a lot of truth to that. It just takes time. It really, really does.
Mm-hmm. I must be wise as anything now.
Well, at least on your chin you are.
Yeah.
I know.
No, that's good. I mean, yeah, it's interesting because we're similar in how we run our businesses because I want to treat people how I want to be treated, but my clientele and we want to have a collaboration because it's not about me telling you what to do. It's about us figuring out a game plan. I like that. I like that a lot.
Well, I didn't make it up. I'm just saying, like, it's the same thing with, like, sitting in school these days. Like, you sit crisscross applesauce. You don't sit, they say Indian style was how it was termed. So everything has been modified. But as a doctor, I have that same problem with your, patients come in and they have an idea what they want to do, and I have an idea what I want to do. Now, we can meet in the middle, or we can come to my side, but there's no me going to your side. That's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I have to agree. I fully support that. I also saw on your email on the list a little bit about you that you work with some higher end clientele. Some higher end clientele.
I have not all the time, but I have.
Yeah. So I have worked with some higher end professionals as well, and I've met with a lot of them. I would love to get your take on how is it in your field. How is that different working with a professional athlete or someone in that capacity versus the average person?
So when it comes to muscles and bones, things have not changed for a very, very long time. True. Most of my day is I treat everybody differently because you have to. You have to push people differently. A lot of my caseload becomes more interesting when the person is more interesting. It really, you pulled your Achilles. I get it. You hurt your hamstring. We're going to work on the injury. My day is more and less fun based on my patients. Now, here is something you're going to really I don't know if this has been your experience. Most professional athletes, most high-end people that I've ever met are kind of disappointing. They really are, because you're looking at somebody who is an incredible actor, and you just want, first off, when they come in, you don't drool over them because it's like they don't want that. So you talk to them like normal people. And I have met some, actors, and especially being here in New York City, and you start talking to them, and it's just like there's nothing going on. And it becomes a real boring hour, and you're like, all right, I just now have to, because we idolize somebody that can throw a baseball X amount of miles per hour, somebody that can run this fast. But I tell you, like I was just saying, I'll actually go ahead and say it. The lady I was referring to, probably the most interesting person I've ever met in my life. If I could have 8 of her all day, every day, I would love that, because like I said, I just want to take notes. And when you meet like rich and famous people, like they put their pants on one leg at a time, and most of them they're a little, I was working in a hospital one time, and I was walking by a room with a patient that I saw, and I look in, and he has, I'll just say it was a member of The Sopranos, not one of the main characters, but somebody that you'd know, and I look in and it's his friend. So I immediately go in, and I'm just talking to my patient, and I just ignored this guy. It's kind of how you have to treat like a little kid that you don't know, or they say when you're dating maybe a girl, you just kind of ignore them a little bit, and then they'll be like, hey, it happened like a T. This guy's looking at me like, hey, I'm like, is he not going to look at me type of thing? And I just didn't give him the time of day. And I was like, all right, Frank or whatever, I'll see you later. And then finally the famous guy's like, oh, where are you from? What do you do? And like they start giving you the attention. And it's a very interesting dynamic. I don't know what your experience has been working with famous people, but like I said, most of the time, it's a little disappointing. Most of the time. Some of them have been pretty cool.
Yeah. And yep, I
fully support that. You're dating famous people.
Wait, me?
No, in general. Like it's the same thing. I've not dated anybody famous. Well, no, one person. Long time ago.
All right, I guess I'll have to follow you on Instagram to follow out and figure this out.
Yes, you will.
This is many, many years ago. But
okay. Statute of limitations.
Well, that was well said. Well said. And I fully agree with that.
I mean, people are people, and it doesn't matter. Look, so the funny thing is when you talk about status, too many times we're talking about like, oh, are you on TV or do you do this? I have people who come into my office who are billionaires. You'd never know it. You would just, they're normal people. They talk about normal stuff. But then the pieces start to fall in and you're like, oh, you're playing on a different playing field than I am right now.
Yeah.
Those are the interesting ones in my life. It's just, I think, I never thought I would connect so much with 70-year-old women. That is like my target demographic, because in New York City, a 70-year-old woman is doing exactly what I'm doing. They are traveling, they are dating, they're going to restaurants, they're going to movies, they're going to museums. I'm going to go ahead and say something, Jim, very, very sexist here. Women age so much better than men do, because they lead these lives where women run marathons. They are just going throughout their lives with hobbies and interests and their careers, and men are in a sprint to the finish line. They're like, I'm working my 30 years. I'm going to hire Jim as my financial wealth advisor. I'm going to make my money, and then I am sitting on a couch and chilling out. And I get people who come into my office 80 years old. You'd never know it. You would never know, because I don't know about you, but like my grandmother is up there. She might as well be 180. She's so old. But I have people that are in their 80s and they are still just as active as they were 30, 40 years ago. But then I have men that come in that are in their late 60s and they look like they should be shopping for a casket. They give up. They really, really do.
Well,
it's important. I'm just saying, the personal development is so, so important. And in society, we put so much money on like fame and money, and I'm sure you've seen this before. People have money. They're just like, whatever. They're normal people.
Yeah, I agree. Awesome.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Allen. I have one more question. I always like to end things on a positive note.
Okay.
You are so positive, like mom. And I always like to think of people having like their own motto, because I don't know, I have my own motto. Everybody should have a motto. So, what would you like people to kind of do? What would be your motto or wish? I would say holiday wish, for the new year.
The reason that I got into, podcasting and comedy and everything is to make other people happy. And I will just be very open. It's probably a selfish thing because putting a smile on somebody else's face makes me feel good. I think the world would be politics, left, right, up, down, who cares? If we all could just treat people a little better and just, it's the little things in this world. It's holding a door. It's treat somebody like they're your family member. And it's just trying to make somebody smile. It's just being a little friendlier. I mean, not everybody can be as funny as Gwen or Jim or maybe me. But the truth is I don't have a motto. My thing is just it's be happy. It's smile a little bit more. It's what's the stupid expression? It takes more muscles to frown than it does to smile. Like whatever. That stuff is corny. But the truth is try to find something that makes you happy. As long as it's safe. Like it's, let's not be silly with all types of, violence and different things in the world. But like, as long as you're doing something that makes you happy, and it shouldn't be that hard. It can be a television show, a podcast, music, an activity. There should be something that makes you smile every single day.
Right.
The end.
Right. I agree.
Perfect. Diamonds make me smile.
Okay, well, maybe if you invest with Jim, he can help you, and then you can buy more diamonds.
Right, there we go. There you go.
The only Christmas gift I want is diamonds every year. But thank you so much, Dr. Allen. Jim, do you have any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
Dr. Allen, that was great. That was great. I loved hearing your perspective. I loved your energy as well. You made me laugh, and I smiled the entire time.
There you go. Look at that. It worked, at least for one person. Thank you so much.
And the only business plug I'll put in there is just make sure anyone that's going to post anything to your 529 plans, you do it prior to New Year's Eve, 12/31. You have up until that time to get them in for this current year, so make sure you do that.
It's very important. I hope everybody heard that. For those that are going to watch on the replay, especially those that were watching, I saw a few people that are watching live. The only thing I will say is, as most of you know, Love Talk, my company, is going into matchmaking full-fledged into 2021. So our goal for the new year will be to match 100 singles, mainly in the state of Florida, South Florida, and Tampa Bay. You can get to New York and New Jersey shortly. But for those that are in Florida, if you are looking to meet somebody, we will be setting you up on virtual dates, and hopefully once everyone is vaccinated and it's safe to do so, we will go back to face-to-face dating. So if you are interested, remember to either message me on Facebook or Instagram. It's My Love Talk, same as our website, mylovetalk.com. You can also send me an email. And my Christmas wish motto is just, everybody, please be kind to one another. I say this every single show, because it's important to be kind. Everything starts with kindness, and you don't want to go into the new year being a Scrooge. So, well, please be kind with everybody. But thank you again, Dr. Allen, and thank you again to my co-host, Jim. We will see you guys here for another show in 2021. We will be back the first Tuesday of January, so you guys don't want to miss it. Thank you, guys.